The presidential suite at Crestview Private Clinic remained hushed, disturbed only by the steady rhythm of medical equipment beeping. Donovan Ellis, 44 years old, stood among America's wealthiest technology entrepreneurs and represented one of the rare black chief executives featured on the Fortune 500 roster, having lain motionless for more than 14 days. An unusual incident aboard his private aircraft had marked him with a scar above his right temple, the sole physical evidence of a crash that had nearly claimed his existence. That, at least, was the narrative the public had accepted. What remained unknown to everyone, including his medical team, was that Donovan had awakened on the third day following the accident, deliberately choosing to keep his eyes closed, maintain even breathing, and keep his body completely relaxed because he required information. Someone had deliberately compromised his plane, and the only method to expose the culprit was to allow his adversaries to believe he remained incapacitated. Beyond the glass door, voices reached his ears. "We cannot postpone this indefinitely, Vincent," stated Caroline Ellis, his spouse of 8 years, her voice edged with impatience. "The board members are growing anxious, and investors are becoming increasingly uneasy." "Exercise patience, dear sister," responded Vincent Hayes, Donovan's half-sibling and chief operating officer of Ellis Innovations. "Within another 7 days, the board will activate the incapacitation provision, and Dr. Langston has already prepared the necessary medical documentation." Under the stillness of his form, Donovan's heartbeat accelerated. His instincts had proven accurate. The aircraft incident hadn't resulted from unfortunate circumstances, but was instead a component of a far more extensive scheme to seize the empire he had constructed. "And what measures are being taken regarding his legal counsel, Celine Carter?" Caroline demanded. "She will be dealt with accordingly," Vincent replied with cold precision. "The ethics board has received evidence sufficient to destroy her reputation, and shortly she will lose her license to practice law entirely." Donovan tightened his jaw without making a sound. Celine Carter represented more than simply his attorney. She had served as his guide throughout law school and subsequently became his most formidable partner in establishing Ellis Innovations. The door then opened with a gentle motion, followed by footsteps that were soft and deliberate, accompanied by a woman's voice. "Good evening, Mr. Ellis, and I'm Alina, assigned as your overnight nurse." Her manner of speaking lacked artifice or condescension, conveying instead a composed, professional demeanor. Donovan detected a subtle hint of lavender scent as she navigated the room, making adjustments to his monitoring equipment. "Your vital signs appear stable," she observed while recording notes. Following a brief silence, she settled into the chair positioned near him. "I'm uncertain whether you can perceive my words," she said in hushed tones. "However, I must share something with you. I don't truly belong in this position." Donovan's interest intensified. "I was brought on merely 3 days ago as a replacement for your former nurse, who departed her position without warning, but during my examination of your medical files last evening, I discovered something deeply troubling. Your sedation dosages exceed what medical standards permit by a dangerous margin, and your neurological response documentation contains inconsistencies. Mr. Ellis, my qualifications extend beyond basic nursing. I specialize in forensic neurology, and someone is intentionally maintaining you under excessive sedation because they want to prevent your recovery." Donovan's pulse momentarily faltered. "I haven't identified the responsible party yet," Alina continued in soft, measured tones. "But I give you my word that I will uncover the truth and provide assistance, regardless of whether it jeopardizes my employment or places me in greater danger." She rose to her feet and made an adjustment to his intravenous line. "I'll gradually reduce your sedation levels, and within several days, you'll begin displaying signs of improvement, at which point we can determine our next course of action." The door abruptly pushed inward as Dr. Langston entered the room. Alina's expression shifted immediately into one of serene professionalism. "Simply conducting routine vital checks, doctor," she stated courteously. Donovan understood in that moment that he had discovered an ally. What Alina remained unaware of, what nobody could have suspected, was that he had already regained consciousness. Behind his sealed eyelids, Donovan was already constructing plans for the destruction of those who believed they could appropriate his empire. Throughout the following days, Donovan and Alina established a covert communication system. A single finger movement signified affirmation, 2 indicated negation, and he used deliberate blinking patterns to construct words letter by letter using cards she secretly brought into the room. His initial spelled message read, "They sabotaged my plane." When Alina inquired about the perpetrators, he spelled out, "Caroline, Vincent." Regarding their motivation, he indicated Project Horizon, a renewable energy infrastructure he had been creating in absolute secrecy, engineered to deliver accessible electricity to underserved communities. The board lacked detailed knowledge, but his wife and brother possessed complete information, and their intention was to eliminate it entirely. Each night while the medical facility rested, Alina delivered covert updates. Vincent and Dr. Langston were pressuring the board to remove Donovan from his position permanently, and Celine Carter, his attorney, was being targeted with fabricated evidence. Celine, however, possessed keen perception, and Alina had contacted her anonymously. In collaboration with an independent specialist, Dr. Lynn Park, a forensic neurologist, Alina validated what Donovan had already concluded. He had sustained no brain injury whatsoever and was being maintained in a pharmaceutically induced comatose state. The ambush was prepared. During the board assembly the subsequent week, Vincent rose with confidence, proclaiming, "Ladies and gentlemen, the medical documentation provides confirmation that Donovan Ellis has sustained irreparable neurological damage, and for the welfare of this organization, we must execute a transfer of authority." Caroline touched a handkerchief to her eyes in a display of artificial grief. A voice suddenly pierced the room. "Are you certain of that assessment, Vincent?" Every head rotated in unison. Standing in the entrance was Donovan Ellis, visibly alive, balanced steadily with a walking cane, dressed in an impeccably tailored suit, and beside him stood Alina, Dr. Park, and Celine Carter carrying a briefcase containing comprehensive evidence. The conference room became completely silent. Caroline's glass slipped from her grasp. Vincent's complexion turned ashen. Celine presented documentation revealing clandestine financial transactions. Alina played an audio recording capturing Vincent giving instructions to Dr. Langston to maintain Donovan's sedation until after the board's decision, and Dr. Park displayed test findings demonstrating that Donovan had suffered no lasting impairment. The conspirators collapsed under the weight of evidence as security personnel escorted them from the premises, with Vincent shouting protests about investors and Caroline protesting that everything had been a simple misunderstanding. Donovan's response came measured but lethal. "You operated under the assumption that I was powerless, and you believed that being underestimated constituted my vulnerability, but it has perpetually served as my most potent advantage." 6 months into the future, Ellis Innovations had undergone dramatic transformation. Solar panel arrays from Project Horizon now adorned the headquarters building, and schools serving low-income communities nationwide were experiencing their electricity expenses reduced by 50%. Vincent had received a sentence of 14 years imprisonment, while Caroline, following a negotiated agreement, received 7 years. Dr. Langston had been stripped of his medical credentials. Donovan established a new charitable organization, the Ellis Park Foundation for Ethics in Healthcare, named in honor of Alina, the woman who had risked her entire future to rescue him, and stood alongside her during the ceremonial opening of a newly constructed research facility. Donovan gazed across a diverse assembly of young engineers advancing Horizon's reach. "During my confinement in that hospital bed," he stated in quiet reflection, "I discovered that genuine power isn't measured by what you accumulate but rather by what you employ to elevate others." Alina responded with a smile. Who could have predicted it? A nurse and a billionaire in a coma ultimately transforming the world. Donovan clasped her hand. "Our work has only just begun. Please share in the comments your current location and the time you're viewing this.